awarded with the will of the Creator, which is to bestow. And when a person has the desire to bestow, he is called a pure man, for he does not do anything unless it brings contentment to his Maker. Again, Babash, what is the meaning of the purification of a cow's desire to be circled? 23-199a. Pure. Once a person has annulled his reason and his will before the will of the Creator, at that time a person is rewarded with the will of the Creator, which is to bestow. And when a person has the desire to bestow, he is called a pure man, for he does not do anything unless it brings contentment to his Maker. Silent workshop. Let's ask to bring contentment to the Creator. Let's ask to bring contentment to the Creator. Silent workshop. Shalom. Hello friends. In the first part of our lesson today, we'll learn from a lesson with Rob about the article of our voodoo. This is from November 11, 2003. During the lesson, let's take some main points, write notes to ourselves, what we hear from Rob so that we can share it with the 10 afterwards. We are beginning from item 21 in the article. This is the Arvut article. You can find it in KabbalahMedia.info, also in the Study Materials tab in the Arv system. So again, we're reading from article the item 21. These are the words of Rabbi Lazo, son of Rabbi Shimon, who said that world is judged by its majority. He was referring to the role of the Israeli nation to qualify the world for a certain measure of purity, until they are worthy of taking upon themselves his work, no less than Israel were worthy of at the time they received the Torah. In the words of our sages, it is considered that they had attained enough virtues to overcome the side of sin, which is the filthy self-love. Clearly, that if the side of merit, which is the sublime attainment of the benefit of loving others, transcends the filthy side of sin, they become qualified for the decision and the agreement to say, we will do and we will, here as Israel said. But before they obtain sufficient merits as self-love will certainly prevail, and they will refuse to assume his burden. Our sages said, he who performs one mitzvah is happy, for he has sentenced himself and the whole world to the side of merit. This means that an individual from Israel finally adds his own part to the final decision, is one who weighs sesame seeds and adds them one by one to the scale until the balance shifts. Certainly everyone takes part in this shifting, for without him the sentencing would never be completed. Similarly, it is said about the acts of an individual from Israel that he sentences the whole world to the side of merit. This is because when the matter ends and the whole world has been sentenced to the side of merit, each and everyone will have a share in this shifting. For were it not for his actions, the shifting would have been deficient. Thus you find that Rabbi Lazo, son of Rabbi Shimon, does not dispute the words of our sages that all of Israel is responsible for one another. Rather, Rabbi Lazo, the son of Rabbi Shimon, speaks of the correction of the whole world in the future, whereas our sages speak of their present, when only Israel have taken upon themselves the Torah. We need to keep this law, this crucial law of mutual guarantee within the people of Israel, and then the entire world joins in. Ultimately, each and everyone without exception must keep this law, although Balaam does write that even in the most advanced states called the last generations, nonetheless there will be people who won't be able to understand the severity of this, of the need to observe this law of love your friend as yourself, the law of mutual guarantee, and they will join into that, even without attaining the necessity of it. But however it may be, since in the general soul of Adam there are many different types of souls, in kind and in the style and depth of their attainment, understanding and participation, then certainly for each type of soul the keeping of the relative Participation will be different, according to their ability, their attainment, the depth of the will that governs them, or perhaps it is already governed by them. But nevertheless, we must gradually come to keep this lore. First of all, Israel, those who yearn for a creator, and later, as Balaam says, we need to create some small group where all the laws will be kept. Like a country, like a little state, and then more and more groups join in, connecting together until this lore can be an example to the whole world. But those who join, as he writes, they join according to their own understanding of this responsibility laid upon each and everyone in this group. We will have this law, for yes, the nations of the world will not will also go through their Irish rights, but everyone has to reach. We don't have any other option, any other way to connect the souls into one vessel, if not through the correction between them, which is called mutual guarantee, is the application of their connection. It's not some artificial secondary condition that stems from other causes. No, it's all from one cause, adhesion, the adhesion of the souls to each other, according to which they equalize with the light, and then adhere to the light. It's all quite simple. So how can it be that some soul, some desire from the sum total included in Adam, can join, can participate, if not through by devoting himself, giving himself over to the collective, the other souls becoming an inseparable part, adhere to them? So certainly in our world it manifests. It should manifest in such a way where the nations of the world as well as Israel ultimately are included in the same lore. Of here too you could say that Israel and the nations, after having intermingled during the exile of Israel in the nations of the world, then you have a different conception of Israel and the nations, because we don't know exactly who is who. We don't know what happened to the tribes, the way everything mixed together. And so we have many such situations where amongst the nations of the world seemingly there are those who awaken here and there, while in Israel we have those that don't awaken. And you cannot say that it's not a real awakening, or it's not up to us to even check if some soul awakens. It's a sign that it comes into its role which it can fulfill, meaning if someone can take upon himself to reach his correction, which is called, he is called Israel with respect to all the others who cannot yet reach that, and the souls that can reach that do want to achieve the correction of Vard. They need to relate to all the others as the nations of the world and correct them, connect them together, and take care of them. And it has nothing to do with nationality, the division into nations. Rather, it has to do with a more inner division. One who yearns for the Creator is called Israel. Israel, one who doesn't, is called the nations of the world. It's written that Israel went to exile only in order to join to them the souls of the Gentiles. Why? Because we see that there are those who awaken, who have this yearning, who have a very, very powerful part of the incorporation of Israel in them, and that's a result of shattering in the exile which was set for an above, although you didn't have such things almost in ancient times before the exiles. It existed here and there, but how many in our history we have, as is told, and we can learn this from the spiritual roots of it. But with, meal barker many Gentiles, there wasn't such mixing there, such from the shattering of the vessels from the ruins. But still it always existed. Himself Abraham, is he not like that? Meaning within the soul awakens a certain yearning for the Creator, and it's the same process that happens with everyone. But there is a part where it happens first and a part where it happens later out of this mingling. And of course it is related to the coarseness. The pure vessels awaken first and are corrected first. The arvut of the greater of is not different from the thinner vessels. Their voot. No, the law of doesn't depend on the of you, the Coarseness, of course, it is applied differently given different levels of coarseness. It's according to the type of vessel that it tries. Yes, but what is the difference in terms of the coarseness of the vessel with regards to Abraham and his family kept the law of food right? Without that it's impossible. The vessels have to be adhered to each other. Yes, to some quantity to reveal a certain illumination, right, which will raise them up to the degree of the spiritual life, spiritual existence. But how much effort they had to exert to put in order to discover the law of food in them, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, those families which then come to Egypt, and Egypt is also the matter of the souls gaining coarseness, but before that they nearly didn't have to make an effort. These souls, they were so pure that it was obvious to them that they have to adhere together, give themselves over to each other to connect together in order to reach equivalence of form with the light. Yes. Furthermore, each one devotes himself to the group. By that he's awarded with equivalent to the light, and in that way, the entire group then reaches such an intensity of connection between them, in order to bestow that the light, it's a sufficient connection that the light then dwells in that group. But in a coarseness of you, they show the level of chish. However, when they reach the courses level of of course has to manifest a different way with an outgrown coarseness, and that's a problem. You need a method for that. You need special vessels for the correction of special lights, rather for the correction of the vessels called Turah. Where is Abraham and the process that the fathers went through for that? They didn't need the Turah. It happened due to the purity of the vessel in Shesh. They understood why they have to be connected in mutual guarantee to reach adhesion equivalence of form with the Creator. And when the porousness grows within the souls, then this ruled the reason for being in no food before now becomes misunderstood. It vanishes and the coarseness begins to conceal divinity. The light begins to grow more distant, and it becomes not so clear why you needed it before. The will to receive now is demanding for itself various things which it's not clear to the person that the law is arranged according to the law of love of others. Some fog has come into his perception until this corruption reaches such states where they don't even believe that the whole of existence operates according to the law, love of others, and so they begin to relate to each other according to the will to receive. As the will to receive grows, it begins to confuse the person more and more and more, and then they dissent more and more. And it also happens with us where we have some assent, and then later a dissent. We feel how suddenly we're capable of giving ourselves over, devoting ourselves and being in this, and later not so much. We start making all these more earthly, mundane calculations, beastly calculations, closer to the earth. And it seems to us that this is the world. This is how we should live. These are the laws according to which everything is governed. It's all according to where exactly you are. More of the will to receive. If the will to receive grows, or the will to receive speaks, less in you, so on. That's how it works in history. Each time the will to receive is, I'd like to write an article about it. Actually about how in accordance with the will to receive from growing in the Jews and the whole, how that became the historical cause of the emergence of all nations, peoples, technology, and so forth. Why there was slavery, and then suddenly emancipation. And why did Christianity and Islam pop up at one time? Rules Persia, then Magi, then Rome, then Greek. Different cultures. It's not for nothing. It's all an outcome of the Bershimo records, the coarseness which is revealed, and it's all the same within the individual. Yes, in our state today, we're also shifting the scales like he says each and every moment when a person exists is living. We are only practicing this whether we want to or not. We're advancing towards recognizing the importance of it through the path of suffering. The whole world you have nowhere else to bring humanity to accept, for such that they see that this is a necessary thing. The mutual connection which goes from love your friend as yourself to love the Lord your God. That's the process that everyone has to go through. All the souls. And so everything that happens with all the souls and with each individually in every moment of his life. It's all a process of coming closer to at some point keeping this law, the keeping of this law, though it may seem to us that we get turned around, and where are we, where's the rest of humanity, what are everyone engaged in? These are all scrutinies over, so as to ultimately reach that decision, that determination, that the merit, the scale rather, tipping the scale, that's upon each and every one and every nation and so on, and the scales are tipped over by the keeping of, by each and every one. So now when I'm not corrected every moment I shift to the scale, even now when you're not yet corrected, but you're bringing yourself closer in some way to understand, to know, to recognize this law that must be observed. By that you also impact the whole world due to the incorporation of your soul in all other souls, such that in them too this law will become more clear, and by that you are helping others. You're helping them reach this application. Of course, until the last one who can't keep it, until he can keep it, the complete end of correction will never come about. That's obvious. But those last ones, those very last ones, that's really, it'll be interesting to see people who are incapable of grasping it because of their near complete disconnection between can't grasp that this thing has to come about, has to be, meaning the in their point in the heart cannot not yearn for adhesion with their Creator and to practice self, but because all the other souls are incorporated with them, only from that they will receive some illumination, and from that they will keep it. They will say, yes, everyone's doing it. So obviously, of course, I need to also, but to feel it, actually feel it inside. Know the incorporation reaches such a low degree, near 0 degree, there will be such, it's only from the integration of the souls within them. Yes, does there have to be in practice, or such an agreement in society that will work on me? What does it mean to keep the avoots? Does a person have to do it in practice, in action, or can he do it in only thought? Well, emotionally I get these questions from the groups abroad as well regarding mutual love and so on. But, of course, as we learned from the previous article, the one preceding of which is the giving of the Torah or balsam, he explains that bestowing upon others, I can't, even the least, the humblest of people that you'll pick from humanity, I'll never be able to satisfy, to fulfill. Then, and of course, it's clear that in that way I'll only burn out, and it's a doomed attempt to begin with. No good will come of it if I go and try to bestow upon other people in practice, trying to make them happy. Rather, I must understand that joy, happiness it doesn't come from wealth. It's not a national thing. It's not a psychological thing. Everyone goes to a psychologist looking for something. It's not that joy, happiness comes from the feeling of adhesion to the upper one, and that covers everything that exists here in all the vessels, all the desires where a person feels dissatisfied, feels a lack of fulfillment. And that's where I need to bring humanity, to make them understand that fulfillment can only come from the light and not from their clothing in our world. Never will a person be sated or satisfied Whatever you may say, and you can never satisfy them. Instead, make sure that they understand the principle. Make sure they understand the means that they acquire, the means by which to gain happiness, satisfaction, what can truly fulfill them. That's what we must take care of. That's what we must bestow upon the world. And to his examples of how you should bestow upon a slave and others, and the fact that you cannot fulfill yourself and yet you go trying to fulfill others. We see in all these examples that that's not the way, and it's impossible. And also you have examples in this world, people with such beautiful souls practice this, wanting to benefit the world, and they truly do want that. Says that in the world you have 10% of people who actually feel pleasure from bestowing, and that's why they bestow, so-called altruists. So-called because their goal, their natural goal is to fulfill themselves. But they're simply built in such a that they fulfill themselves. They enjoy it when they give. That's why they give 10% of those from the general population. And we see what happens when they do that. Do they do good to anyone? And if we think they mitigate the suffering of others, ameliorate the suffering somehow, is it good? Ultimately, the suffering is sent from above in order to advance to scrutinize something to that suffering, and perhaps they're causing a person to fail on his path by helping him like that. Now, I don't want to go into all these calculations, but I'm saying that in practice and in theory, there is a question here. Of course, love your friend as yourself. Observing that, we first have to observe it by giving everyone, offering everyone an understanding of how they can each fulfill themselves by bestowing upon others. Yes, and when a person tries to understand this law of bestowing upon others and mutual votes, then by default he starts living in such a way where he doesn't need anything more in life other than bare subsistence. That's his subsistence, and the rest of his life he fills with dissemination, which is to give the surplus, so to speak, to something where his life, that's where his life really is outside of him. Perhaps you cannot see that as giving, but the way we do it, more or less we do it constantly, and if there's surplus, all our efforts, our thoughts, our intentions we give to dissemination. Yes, I wanted to ask if the Arvin thoughts has to in practice, or it's enough that there's an agreement in society that will work on me. They vote, should it be applied in practice through an agreement in the society, or can an individual start doing it? Well, if the society agrees, there is such an agreement in society that in terms of the thoughts will be sufficient for me to have the confidence I need, so that it works on me, so I can come out of self love keeping the well. What learn from Abraham, it's not for nothing that he's called the father of the nation of the group. It's an example for everyone. It doesn't matter if they had a different kind of the first who started doing this, practicing it. He started organizing more and more people explain to them more and more what this law is, that we need to be together, and with what kind of relations for the Creator to be revealed between us, for us to feel the true spiritual existence, and what reality we live in, and so forth. So this one person started this, and everyone can do that. Follow the path of Abraham, our father. There's nothing new here. Now, of course, if there's a group that's established and agrees in some way to keep the condition of FOV in accordance with its development, or according to its level of development, it takes upon itself some higher example that it wants to reach of a kind that they think they can actually attend pain through their correction of the self, right through mutual support in the group, that's truly their own advancement, and the society influences each individual, and each individual influences the environment. You don't need to make so many calculations. You just have to push this rule in, and to understand that without mutual connection we won't be like the light. We won't be similar to the light. That's it. If yes, do I depend I souls of the friends on the thoughts of their friends, or I depend on the others' thoughts? I depend on what the friends think of me, on the one hand. On the other hand, if I am in an upliftment, then I can influence the friends more than they influence me, because then I am above the society in terms of my ascent, and then in such times I need to influence the society more. Well, that's already. Let's continue. Item 22. And this is what Rab Lazar, son of Rabbi Shimon, quotes from the writings. Quote, "One sinner destroys much good." End quote. It has already been explained in item 20 that the impression that comes to a person when engaging in commandments between man and the Creator is completely the same as the impression he gets when engaging in commandments between man and man, since one is obliged to perform all the commandments lishmer for her sake, without any hope for self-love, meaning that no light or hope returns to him through his trouble in the form of rewards or honour, etc. Here at this exalted point the love of the Creator and the love of his friend unite and actually become one, as said in the article Matanto. In this manner, one effects a certain measure of advancement on the ladder of love of others in all the people of the world in general sense. That degree which the individual caused by his actions, whether large or small, ultimately joins the future in shifting the world to the side of merit, since his share has been added, and joins the shift. As written in at 20, the allegory about the sesame seeds, one who commits one's sin, meaning he cannot overcome and conquer his filthy self-love, and therefore steals or does something of the sort, sentences himself and the whole world to the side of sin. This is because with the disclosure of the filth of self-love, the lowly nature of creation is reinforced. Thus he takes away a certain amount from the sentencing to the final side of merit, like a person removing from the scale that single sesame seed his friend had put there. Thus to that extent he slightly elevates the side of sin, and it follows that he regresses the world. As they said, quote, "One sinner destroys much good," end quote, because he could not overcome his petty lust. He pushed the spirituality of the whole world backward. Where does it come from? The teach one can influence the whole world for better or for worse. Well, that's clear to us from the incorporation between the souls, that from the shattering of the vessel, the only vessel that was created, the collective soul where we were all incorporated in an initial wonderful connection. But that connection was between us by the light that created that state, the soul, and with its presence all desires were subdued and mitigated and connected, and certainly with desires to bestow to each other, intentions to bestow to each other. That's where they were, but it was all on part of the light that held these desires that way. From the moment that it gave birth to them, created them, made them, they were interconnected in such a way. All those desires. Then came the shattering. What's the shattering? The light departed the Kli, which caused the Kli to remain in its natural qualities, which is something that didn't happen before, because the light created the vessel to begin with, and at some point the light departs the Kli. As it leaves the Kli remains in its nature, and then its nature becomes apparent, which is a desire to enjoy, and then from the will to enjoy, which does not feel the light, the nature of the giver. Then it becomes immersed inside itself, feeling only itself, certainly thinks, examines, and calculates only according to the will to receive, each one with his desire to receive. And thus there's a detachment across all the desires which never actually felt that they're separate before. They felt as one desire. It's like in a body where all kinds of things are interconnected and working together, and there's no problem that one part of the body has to think about how to help the others. It's obvious that it's a single system and it cannot happen any other way. And here all of a sudden a desire appears in each and every one which doesn't belong to the other desires, where each one began to worry only about his own individual existence. And thus there has been a detachment between all these pieces of the soul, this general vessel. Imagine what would happen in our body if all the organs will disintegrate to the point of the cells and the molecules and the atoms and all kinds of details, all the way to the very elementary particles which already exist in hundreds or even thousands of different forms. That's what we're talking about. And that is exactly that which exists on the level of this world, and certainly understanding from this final picture how we have to be connected in such a complete, harmonious, perfect functioning, that's very difficult. We can't understand that from these little scrutinies where everyone is in his tiny little vessel, understanding through his tiny egoistic mind to understand from there that there's a connection between all the pieces in some system, say molecules, then organs, then a complete body that has to function for some higher goal that is above the body itself. There's something above it called the Creator, and connecting with it, revealing that is a completely different special kind of existence. It's impossible for that elementary particle to understand, and that represents each and every one of us. But it doesn't rid us or put us out of the influence of this law, which is called the unity of the Creator with the created being. Ultimately, we are operated by that initial state that existed before we disintegrated, before the connection between us disappeared, called our hoot. And from that place, we're actually governed to get to that place, but already with our own consciousness, and that is from today, where we are in such a space where we feel disintegrated, detached. Each one only feels himself, and we are only beginning to hear that there is such a state or such an obligation to adhere to each other, get closer, to connect through some upper force. But by doing the work, making efforts, of course, we can't actually do it. If these tiny elementary particles certainly cannot do anything, but when they want the upper light to recollect them, to give them, that is each and every one, a desire to connect to the others into a single system, that each time they come together, the goal is different in terms of the existence. It's for a higher level of existence. When they ask that from the light, then just as the light held them in that upper state by the force of light as they were created and held that way together, so similarly by the same force of light, except that we ask of it, and then we come back to that state. So, what's the difference? The difference is that now they as if give birth to themselves, and they connect themselves, they correct themselves, they sustain themselves, based on their decision they acquire by that independence, mind, wisdom, attainment, understanding, and they regain the initial state. Now they're already equipped with the understanding of the entire structure of reality, and from knowing themselves from that they know the actions of the light, the actions it made so as to create them and connect them, and thus they come to the degree of the emanator that's called from your actions. We know you, but altogether we have to understand that this law of our V mutual guarantee, which is the basis of love of others, our V is not love of others. It's only the law by which we will relate to each other in terms of giving each other the feeling that he lacks nothing. We give each one a correction over the will to receive, a compensation to the will to receive, so that the will to receive is under restriction. It doesn't erupt out of the person. It doesn't demand its fulfillment. Rather, it is certain that it lacks nothing even now because it receives such a correction, such an inspiration from the rest of the souls that says, don't worry, we care for you. You're not going to lack anything. And then the person, each and every one, becomes free to develop his vessels of bestow. And the vessels of bestows he develops, these are the vessels of love. Thy friend as thyself is half the state. It's just it's to silence the will to receive and transform it bit by bit to be in service of others and love of others. That is the work that comes after, and when we begin, when we arrive at engaging in love of others through that we then come to equivalence of form with the Creator. By what means can you come to a state where a momentary disconnection is felt by the person as regression is walking backwards? By what means can we feel that a second of disconnection from taking care of our root is a descent is a fall, and by that you cause and it's a descent in your work by which you cause both individual harm and to the whole world, and what you cause the whole world comes back to you. By what means systems we can build such a alarming force, such a fear or anxiety. Yeah, it's only the society that can raise such an awareness, such a feeling to put such an importance into us that without it, I'll really feel myself in a horrible state. It's a matter of importance. We call it importance. You can call it other ways. Butam says that it's a matter of the recognition of evil. If I have a microscope, I see that germs are horrible. But if I don't have a microscope, who cares? Then I drink this water. It's just water. That's what I see if I look at it through a microscope. Oh boy, what's going to happen there? These animals, they're going to eat me like they eat each other. I'm going to stay away. So the whole matter here is the recognition of evil. There. So in my eyes, I can't see it. But if 1,000 people around me are talking about it, that becomes to me not 1,000 times, but 1,000,000 times more felt. But a person has to be also ready to hear from the society, and the society needs to be smart enough to build such a process of dissemination to the person persuasion, so that it will enter him. We have to understand that each and everyone is blocked, is we have to really break its shell and get into it. It's all work that the society needs to do. And what is the society? Is it everyone? Or a few of the people that you need to pick? The society means all the people that are seemingly are in an agreement to reach the goal, called adhesion with the Creator. In agreement. It's an unaware kind of unspoken agreement. They somehow read about the goal. They understand that's pretty much what it is. And they kind of begin. So let's begin to build within us some systems and stages of work and labour so that we can somehow get closer to it. Clearly, they will ultimately discover that progress happens only by the light that corrects, connects, rearranges and brings together all the pieces of Adamaran. So all their actions, accordingly, will be determined according to how much correcting light they can attract to themselves, and accordingly the actions will be more important, less important actions that we always need to think of, and maybe not so much, and so on. Each time there's a different understanding, different discovery of the means, but ultimately the correct awareness is always that the light scrutinizes and corrects the vessels, and it's up to us to attract it, to draw it, and what's the action by which we can do it most effectively. That's it. Meaning, what action of ours is most compatible for the upper light, the surrounding light, to come to us and correct us. A group action where we yearn for connection between us in order to achieve adhesion with the Creator. It's a very simple formula, but the problem is that when we begin to realize it, we forget what it's for. We're not sufficiently have a scrutinized intention in each and every action, and the intention which isn't scrutinized in each and every one is also not similar between one to the other. So we have to work on that also as much as possible, and with this the littlest actions we don't even need to do all that we do not even, that if we add a clearer, more scrutinized distilled intention, more, how to put it, more urgent and demanding and determined, yeah, that will work much more effectively instead of what we're doing now, which is many actions, but in the intentions we're not that successful yet, and the quality of intention is what's missing. It's always the problem in any state, in any place, in any group, that we can make many actions. I also have such questions from the letters they send. We're doing this and this and this and this and that. Why? What's going on? And what can I say? Yes, the groups are doing many actions, but the intention is missing or insufficient according to the measure of development of the group. Their intention has to be much more solid, scrutinized, and it has to be as a kind of a, how to put it, like in Russian. Maybe Dan knows how to say it. How do you say this in Hebrew? It's that they used to in the past in was they would take this kind of pillar and run with it to break a door. Yeah. Like when you take a pillar of wood and you like a ram. Yeah. So that's the role of the intention. If you can explain something, our friend, in our society, we always have someone responsible for everything, and if there's someone in charge then that thing functions, but if there's no one in charge then everyone has to do it, and then there's no obligation. So how does this function in our inner work? Good. That's a good question. In each and every work we see that if we want something to succeed, we put someone in charge or a team. We see that in any kind of work we want to succeed with. Let's say building a sewer, doing something big, we have to divide it to teams. Each team is responsible for something: electricity, heating, cooling, kitchen cleaning, and so forth. And then we succeed when each one thinks about the collective success, but busy with something of his own. But everyone thinks about the collective success. Now, what do you say for us in the group? Each one must also think about this, our food, or we can set up a team for it. A team we need, and we have teams in the group for anything that's done in practice. But each and everyone has to have the same intention to achieve success, and his success means to realize the condition of our each one will feel that he was liberated from his will to receive, which is what is called the Exodus from Egypt. That's the condition for the reception of the Torah, meaning afterwards comes a higher upper force that allows you, enables you to work with the vessels themselves, the vessels of reception. Know this, the role to reach this condition, the desire to achieve, to reach this state needs to be each and everyone's desire, otherwise they has nothing to do in this society at all. Rather, each one does all kinds of actions also from the character of his soul and his ability in general, what he's capable of in society, both physically and intellectually, and everything doesn't matter what, but the intention needs to be for everyone. It can't be you engaging the intention for the society and we will do the action, can't do it that way. He tells you that this must be across everyone to the very last detail, where each one sentences everyone to the scale of merit or demerit. You each and everyone, you can't put this burden on someone else, cause everyone has a vessel he must can correct. With the correction of our V from my vessel, I have to provide all of us with my Av, and he has to do the same, and the other one has to do the same, and if one is lacking because we are incorporated with each other, I will lack that as well. I'll be deficient. I'll feel it. It's true that the society is good. They'll still help me and everything, but something will be missing, and I don't need to worry about when will I be filled with this voodoo. Or no, I don't know it. It just comes, that state where a person detaches from his will to receive. He just begins to. It's not that he starts to disregard life, God forbid. It rather helps him continue, bestow, or begin bestowing from this point on, to start bestowing. And this is called crossing the barrier. It's not something that happens in a sharp way like we think about it, boom, and we cross. There is such a thing, such an aspect, but before that, it already kind of begins. Yes, how to make it so that the few people in the society all think about the same thing and share the same intention. How to make it so that everyone thinks of one goal. That's something we have to look for. There's no solutions for that each and every moment in our life. That's our work, to prepare to look for what connection in what form I need to have each and every moment, so that I will awaken the surrounding lights which will give me some awakening upliftment to spirituality, meaning to realize that the law of our V and love of others and adhesion with the Creator, all the data exists in us. We have our desire with all of the horror in it, and against that shines the surrounding light already, and to some extent, and I just have to be alert to the gap between me and the surrounding light that shines, and from that I'll direct myself. I'll aim myself to reach correction, to reach the surrounding light, to make it work exactly on my uncorrected vessels, my intentions that are not corrected. I don't need to search for anything, I just need to each time scrutinize the state, so scrutinizing it, being alert to it, I can do that only by the importance from society. It's like, look, you're sick, you have horrible illnesses, the diseases inside of you. If you don't reveal them, you'll die. So, look inside and see what you have. And we see a person says, not that bad. I'm not going to go to the doctor. Maybe in a week, maybe if it's more. It's not that bad. But if he will be told more and more and more things, bad things that have happened, then he'll run even though he doesn't feel it. Yet, that's what we need. All the foundations are already in us. The light shines. The vessel is broken. Their importance necessitates me to begin engaging in scrutiny and correction. Dear friends, we'll now continue to the next part of the lesson. The study of the tense fields. Heat, shalom. Hello, we are reading from the study of the tense. We are in volume 1 part 2. Inner observation item 103. Before we begin reading, we'll first watch a clip. This is clip number 11. Intention before the lesson. You see how Bam patiently, he's not lax about explaining to us what happens in each and every detail. We out of foolishness, we just say something in general, and that's enough for us. No. He very meticulously repeats it, goes over it again and again, because even just reading and understanding, explaining, rather and chewing these things, it's all very close to our root. It's what we need to start receiving inside of us. And when we read these things, it goes to us, it operates, it works on us. Even if we don't understand, the more we read, and we want these things to happen, we want to feel them taking place, by that we awaken the surrounding lights. We awaken desires which are buried deep within us, and that's where the work is done. From the outside, of course, we don't feel that, but it helps us extract things from the inside out. That's why we say that habit becomes a second nature. Number 103. 103. Headline: The reflected light expand from below upward. 103. We have another course of 10 there. These extend from the from below upward, meaning from to that case becomes the origin of the new light, called the tens of reflected light. They are called by that name for they are imparted and emerge in an opposite order of degree. That is, it does not extend in travel from the refined vessel to the coarse one. so that so the last receiver is the coarsest. On the contrary, it extends and travels from the coarsest vessel to the one that is less coarse. Finally, the last receiver is the most refined, which is why it is regarded as illuminating from below upward. Clip number 12, please. When that discernment is concluded, the Mal, when she feels that she received it from the Creator, then from here the response of begins, the lower one. And also, what does she build? She builds. What can she build? Yes, by building is when from the that's in manhood. Yes, start to be an external, and so on. And there is a completion of all of these. The completion is with the intention, that which comes from the side of the Creator, for with pleasure in the light. This whole upper triangle is direct light. That's light. So the lower triangle is only the intention, but they complement or complete one another. And we talk about everything only from the side of the creature. When the creature discovers the reflected light, then what he discovers is that in place of the direct light that comes to him, in place of direct light, there was nephesh, because he receives it in the reflected light. In reflected light, meaning the lower triangle suddenly ignites what's in the vessel 620 times 104. Headline: all the spur of reflected light that come in the spur of direct light travel through 104. We have explained above about the incorporation of the in the order of the tens of direct light, because there is no absence in spirituality. Any illumination that passes anywhere remains there in completeness, even after it moves to a different location. With regard to the 10 of direct light, all the 10 are present in 9, in 18, etc. For that reason, it also appears by the same way in the T of reflected light. That is because here that becomes the origin of that reflected light. Thus it is considered that every phase of reflected light that reaches its upper sphere must travel through Mal, since that Malat emanates that light by the power of her screen, which makes a coupling with the light of veins that meets that screen. Clip number 13. All the spur of reflected light come in the 9 light sphere of direct light and go through Malat. All the lights that Malat rejects and brings to she is rewarded by them. You see, all the spur of reflected light which come in the 9th spur of direct light, all the spur that are revealed in the 9th spur of direct light from below upwards. I'm sorry, from above downwards, all the lights that are discovered there move through Malat and return in the reflected light to Keter, meaning all the lights that the Creator is depicting himself with towards his created beings in the first 9, in all the manners, all those kinds, all the power, with all the flavours and all the colours, and all that's there. The Malat receives it. They move through her. They travel through her in order to give back that it bestowed to the Creator. It's impossible for Malu to give back that which she does not feel that is moving through her. It goes through her, travels through her, all the bestow of the Creator to her while it is clothed in reflected light with the intention in order to bestow. Item 105 headline: when the reflected light of travels through it leaves its root in, and so on by the same manner. 105. Therefore, when the receives her light from it necessarily means that received that light first via a coupling with the light of that passed through and came to the. It follows that the light of is present both in Mal and it is the same with the reflected light that had receives, which necessarily acquired its place by passing through Malat. And in that state, we find that there are 3 lines in Malat, 2 in and 1 in Had. Similarly, when Ket receives the last reflected light, there are already 10 lights of the 10 of reflected light, in 9, in 8, in etc., as was explained regarding the 10 of direct light. Kle 14. when the reflected light of travels through Malhud, it leaves its root in Malad. And what does he say after this? In the second sentence, and here this reflected light Malhud receives before that, meaning first the lights travel through Malat and then they seemingly return to the emanator. What does that mean? They go through and return. There isn't here some back and forth like with the we need to explain it in a manner that first there has to be a feeling of a revelation, and only from her feeling that is what she reflects back to the 106.6 headline by the incorporation of the reflected light through passing 10 spur were established in each and every sphere. Keter has 9 spur of direct light and 1 of reflected light. 106. It turns out that we have 10 in each and every of the above 10, meaning together with the reflected light. In other words, the light of Mal that is received in each and every sphere complete to 10 spur in there are 9 spur of direct light and 1 of reflected light, namely for she receives last from the 10s of reflected light. Consequently, he has only 1 light of the reflected light. They say inasmuch as she receives in such this varied way, accordingly there's also a response. Truly this against that. Therefore there are spur in reflected light. Not just, thank you very much, but rather by him filling me he gave me the feeling of the world also. Now the feeling of the world is what the Creator establishes for us, so that we will begin to respond to him. Through the world as it is written his glory is filled the world, or his that's have to identify this picture. So, Mal discerns this. She notices this of who's filling her, why with what need, what's demanded of her, all those things, and then responds. That entire response is called reflected light. Number 107. Line has 8 of direct light and 2 of reflected. Light has 7 of direct light and 3 of reflected light. 107 has 8 of direct light and 2 of reflected light. These are her own part which she received from reflected light, of being of reflected light. And the second one is the part of that passed through her and does not move there, namely of reflected light, has 7 lights of direct light which are and 3 sphere of reflected light. She has from her own from the part of that travel through her and from the part of that travelled through her, meaning from Bina upwards. Headline for 108 has 6 of direct light and 4 of reflected light, has 5 of direct light and 5 of reflected light, has 4 of direct light and 6 of reflected light. 108 has 6 of direct light which are and force of reflected light which extend from upwards. In other words, she has her own part, namely and the parts with and which are and that travelled through her and were established there. Likewise has 5 spur of direct light. She also has 5 spur of reflected light from upwards, meaning the 4 parts both being which pass through her, and her own part which is a reflected light has 4 of direct light from downwards and of reflected light from upwards. In other words, it has 5 parts which are that pass through him, and his own part being of the reflected light. We see these come from above and this come from below. In this way each and every spur completes itself until wholeness until the 10 not understood. It's not understood, and it won't be understood until we feel that it's like that. Until we feel that that's how we are filled from, that we will understand. And it's wonderful that we don't understand. It's a real point. We can't understand spiritual laws, and even the simplest of laws that could be, we can't understand. It will always be a concealed matter, a hidden thing, and it's a good sign that we're advancing correctly. Until we attain, we shall not give it a name or a word. 49 have 3 of direct light and 7 of reflected light has 2 of direct light and 8 of reflected light has 9 of reflected light and 1 of direct light, and Malat has 10 sphere of reflected light. 109 has 3 sphere of direct light from downwards, which are and of direct light. It also has 7 sphere of reflected light from upwards, which are 6 parts that pass through her, and her own part, which is of the reflected light, has 2 of direct light and 8 of reflected light from upwards. Those are the 7 parts, and that pass through him, which are of the reflected light, and his own part, which is of reflected light, has 1 sphere of direct light and 9 sphere of reflected light from upwards. Those are 8 parts, and that pass through him, which are of reflected light, and his own part being of reflected light. Let's see clip 17. If we are talking about reflected light, then of direct light becomes of reflected light, of direct light becomes of reflected light, of direct light is of reflected light, etc. In short, from below upwards we see that the created being makes the in return bestowing to the creator where the of the is in the mood of this is. In that is how they clothe the tense of direct light and of reflected light, and then they complete these discernments with those as much as the creator bestows in each, and as much as the created being bestows in every. That is, I don't know, completed or complemented. In the next part of the lesson, we are going to go together through the study materials of the convention. Okay friends, we're going to continue a lesson which is actually a continuation to the convention preparation. We've been through quite a few conventions, and we know that we have no surprises in conventions. That's why we have to do preparation, and mostly the preparation is first the study material more than once. We've heard this from Raf. How do you prepare for convention? Raf, how to prepare for convention? Raf is always answering us. Where's the site? Where are the materials? Did you hear the songs, which is the main thing? And we decided that what do we have, like 10 days? We will simply go together on the last part of the lesson over excerpts from the convention. Yeah, we'll start from a clip from AV clip 0. It's also really desired before convention to study the materials. I don't want to be surprised with some special wisdoms or all kinds. It's not completely not my direction. On the contrary, as much as they know more and already supposedly I tell them about older things, the deficiency, their desire will be directed towards what they read and studied and heard before. I'll be able to take that deficiency and truly bring new things into it. So I'm interested in people that understand the materials, they know the materials, and they know it advance what I'm about to say. That there's a topic of the lessons where materials where we build the lesson from. So the innovation has to come from within us, that we connect together and discover new discernments. That's the innovation. The words can be the same words, but the inspiration from them, their depth, what they discuss, that is something we have to feel on a new level. Yes, so the innovation needs to be from our inner impression, the preparations that we feel anew and not from the words, and we want to start to read. We will read together. We will do this interactively as much as possible. So we will be happy with the collaboration with everyone here and the world. We're going to start with excerpt number 3. We're starting with the study materials of lesson number 1. You have all the lessons in the system as well. We'll start with the excerpt number 3 from lesson number 1, because number 1 in lesson number 1 is the whole article of none else besides him from its beginning to the end. Excerpt number 2. We read yesterday a very special one about thoughts. Excerpt number 3 is the excerpt that we will start with now. So let's try, like Rav taught us, not to surprise one another, but rather, unless it's with the inner discernment, Excerpt number 3. Let's see it on the screen, if possible. Thank you. The entire reality upper ones and lower ones S1 in its final state of the end of correction was emanated and created with a single thought. That single thought performs all the operations. It is the essence of all the operations, the purpose and the essence of their labour is by itself the very perfection and the sought after reward. In the study of the tense, we read it twice. This entire reality upper ones and lower ones as one in its final state of the end of correction was emanated and created with a single thought. That single thought performs all the operations. It is the essence of all the operations, the purpose and the essence of the labour. It is by itself the very perfection and the sought after reward. Now we want each 10 to read it together in the 10, meaning each 10 takes excerpt number 3 and reads it together in the way that they're used to reading source excerpts in the 10. Let's take a minute or two. Each 10 reads it twice. It's best to do it in a round where each friend participates, or at least part of the friends participates. That's how we will do the next ones as well. That's it. We're reading in the 10. Excerpt number 3. Please. So, where is that excerpt? You can read. Friends, I'm listening. I'm just working. The entire reality, upper ones and lower ones as one in its final state of the end of correction was emanated and created with a single thought. That single thought performs all the operations. It is the essence of all the operations, the purpose and the essence of the labour. It is by itself the very perfection and the sought after reward. Let's read again. Exit number 3. This entire reality upper ones and lower ones S1 in its final state of the end of correction was emanated and created with a single thought. That single thought performs all the operations. It is the essence of all the operations, the purpose and the essence of the labour. It is by itself the very perfection and the sought after reward. This entire reality upper ones. We're going to move to excerpt number 4. We aspire for each 10. We'll try to read it twice within the 10. If we didn't do it, we'll get better next time, with a little bit more time. I see some of the 10s didn't get to do it twice. We'll correct ourselves. For excerpt number 4, it is known that the whole earth is full of His glory. This is what every person should believe. As it is written, I fill the heaven and the earth. However, the Creator has made a concealment so that we cannot see Him, so as to have room for choice. And then there's room for faith to believe that the Creator fills all the worlds and encompasses all the worlds. And after a person engages in voice, the Creator reveals Himself to him, and then he sees that the Creator is the ruler of the world. At that time a person makes the king who will rule over him. That is, a person feels that the Creator is the ruler of the world, and this is regarded as a person making the Creator king over him. As long as one has not come to such a feeling, the Creator's kingship is concealed. Rarish. Yeah, so you read it twice. Now just think of a group action that invites the light, as we heard in the first part. That should be the intention. A group action. We're reading together. We're connected to our sources, and that should help us. We heard today in the lesson we'll make a little reminder for intention to search for a certain connection. In what way it needs to be in me every moment, so that I will awaken upon myself the surrounding light to give me some kind of upliftment for spirituality, meaning to observe the law of Av and love of others and adhesion to the Creator. We'll think about all those things as we're reading in the 10 now. We'll give it 5 minutes. We will read twice. Excerpt number 4. Please, maybe let's try that Whoever reads everybody like reads it together, silently with them. We're going to read it. I tried it before, like say it in your heart while someone's reading. It is known that the whole earth is full of His glory. Creator has made a concealment so that we cannot see Him, so as to have room for choice. And then there is room for faith to believe that the Creator fills all the worlds and encompasses all the worlds. And after a person engages in and mitzvot and keeps the commandment of choice, the Creator reveals Himself to him. And then he sees that the Creator is the ruler of the world. Thus, at that time a person makes the king who will rule over him. That is, a person feels that the Creator is the ruler of the world. And this is regarded as a person making the Creator king over him. Since as long as one has not come to such a feeling, the Creator's kinship is concealed rubbish. For it is known that the earth is full of His glory. This is what every person should believe. As it is written, I filled the heaven and the earth, all the worlds, and encompasses all the worlds. And after a person engages in Torah and keeps the commandment of choice, the Creator reveals Himself to him. And then he sees that the Creator is the ruler of the world. Thus at that time a person makes the king who will rule over him. That is, a person feels that the Creator is the ruler of the world, and this is regarded as a person making the Creator king over him. As long as one has not come to such a feeling, the Creator's kinship is concealed. Okay, now we're going to read excerpt number 5. Beside man's body there is only the Creator. This is because it is the essence of creation that man is called creature only with respect to himself. The Creator wants man to feel that he is a separate reality from him, but other than this it is all the whole earth is full of His glory. Again, besides a man's body, there's only the Creator. This is because it is the essence of creation that man is called creature only with respect to himself. The Creator wants man to feel that he is a separate reality from him, but other than this, it is all the whole earth is full of His glory. Let's read it again in the tens. Read it twice. I saw that a few of the tens were able to do it 3 times. We'll give it 3 minutes, please. Besides man's body, there is only the Creator. This is because it is the essence of creation that man is called creature only with respect to himself. The Creator wants man to feel that he is a separate reality from him, but other than this it is all the whole earth is full of His glory. Besides man's body there is only the Creator. This is because it is the essence of creation that man is called creature only with respect to himself. The Creator wants man to feel that he is a separate reality from him, but other than this it is all that the whole earth is full of His glory. Besides man's body there is only the Creator. This is because it is the essence of creation that man is called creature only with respect to himself. The Creator wants man to feel that he is a separate reality from him, but other than this, it is all the whole earth is full of His glory. Besides a man's body, there is only the Creator. This is because it is the essence of creation that man is called creature only with respect to himself. The Creator wants man to feel that he is a separate reality from him, but other than this it is all the whole earth is full of His glory. Besides man's body there is only the Creator. This is because it is the essence of creation that man is called creature only with respect to himself. The Creator wants man to feel that he is a separate reality from him, but other than this, it is all the whole earth is full of His glory. Besides man's body, there's only the Creator. This is because it is the essence of creation that man is called creature only with respect to himself. The Creator wants man to feel that he is a separate reality from him, but other than this it is all the whole earth is full of His glory. Okay friends, First of all are an opportunity to be washed with excerpts from their stud letter 76 or some excerpts. And what we want to do now is ask each 10 to have a workshop in the 10. We read these excerpts not just in order to get a general impression, but also to be washed with these wondrous words that Rabash write. And we want every 10 to think about a workshop question and to compose such a workshop question that she thinks is correct for us all to do.